Welcome back to another episode of the You Not Me podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the Olympics. The Olympics features, in essence, the top 0.001% of the world in whatever given sport there is. Now, granted, some of these competitions, I'm wondering about like the partner luge. I'm like, how do you find out that you're good at that? Like,
That's right.
who's who's training this all their life? But the reality is that the Olympics is the best of the best in pretty much every winter sport out there, and it's featuring some phenomenal athletes in some wild competitions. And it's one of the most impressive viewing experiences anywhere for sports. And these athletes have given years, decades, countless hours of training just for one moment, some of them to just compete for a handful of seconds. And the question that we've been asking a lot internally at You Not Me is whether or not contentment is waiting along with a medal at the podium. And so, as Chris and Andrew come in today, guys, what are some things that, as you've been watching the Olympics or engaging with some of the headlines, just some of the things that have jumped out to you in terms of some of the questions that are maybe going beneath the surface beyond just who's winning, who's leading the points table, who's been most successful? What are some of the things that are jumping out at you?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's just so interesting you see there was a Norwegian cross country skier that he is on the verge of equaling and being one of only two athletes, him and Michael Phelps, to ever have 10 Olympic gold medals, which is amazing. But then you also see, just unbelievable, just heartbreak and defeat and injury. You see what happened with Lindsey Vonn and just so many things. It's just these highs and lows that I think the hardest thing in life is the highs and lows are going to come all the time. And it's not just in their Olympic life, it's actually in their personal life as well. And as you said, you train for this one moment or whatever. And there are people like with the, freestyle skiing, they've landed some of those tricks over and over and over again, but then the one time when it quote matters, they don't land it. And they either don't even end up on the podium at all, or barely even get even scores that are remotely even something they'd be proud of. But it's like, but they've done the amazing things and the amazing work and the ability that they've trained and pushed themselves and grown. And the question is along the way, have you created amazing relationships, or has it just been a sole self-focus, self trying to, glorify and get that gold medal that eventually winds up
Mhm.
on a shelf or in a drawer and just collects dust?
Well, and it's time and time again, you just see people and you see these examples of individuals that get all the gold medals. Like you look at like Michael Phelps, for example, and just, he would talk about just the deep depression and emotions that he would feel after each of the Olympics, where he would come away with, just I don't know how many gold medals he's
A
received,
lot.
but he has a lot, and it just shows that it's the climb and the pursuit that's what's motivating.
Mm.
And once you get there, if that is your goal, if you kind of go all in on that one moment and you don't get there, it really challenges you to think about kind of what are your goals and what's your perspective, and that's what's honestly hit me the most. And I honestly haven't seen as much of the Olympics this year as I would have wanted to, but it's just been interesting just seeing how people, individual athletes handle that moment, and some with grace and some with not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, even, Michael Phelps with, the up and down and even, having such deep depression, suicidal thoughts, all these things. You would look at his life and say, "My gosh, that guy's got everything. Like he's got all these endorsements, got all this money and fame and et cetera." But I mean, yet he was miserable in some ways. But one of the things that I saw just even doing just a little bit of research about this is, he posted a picture of his coach that had passed away. And he talked about like just how important that guy was in his life. And it's like, so when you're going through this training and this focus to get here, I mean, again, whether it's climbing up the ladder, you want to be a partner, or whatever it is, uh, it's like, do you take the time to be intentional and enjoy the precious moments of being present with the relationships of your
Mhm.
coaches, your teammates, all these people that come alongside you that support you along the way and build into you and your family? Or is it something where you're just so focused on winning, and like you don't care who gets in the way, you're going to make sure that you bulldoze through them, and you're going to, go at this on your own, and it's like, man, just miss out. And I think that's one of the things that he's seeing, is that mental health is something that he has to work just as hard as the physical side of swimming
Mhm.
to keep that healthy. But we know of what the true mental health
Mhm.
secret really is. And I think it's just, again, it goes back to relationships, first with Christ, and secondly with the people that are around you. And how do you find contentment? Are you content whether you win the gold medal or not? Are you content
Mhm.
whether you even make it to the Olympics or not? Because again, there's so many people that don't even make it out of high school sports, much less the Olympics.
Mhm.
And so, like, what is your life built upon? Is it on something that's going to actually last, or is it something that, if that gets taken away, or once that moment, Jared, when you got done playing pro soccer, there are tons of people that are pro footballers that when they stop playing, they hang up their boots. They don't even their identity's gone, and they don't even know which way. And instead of looking forward at, well, what can I do now to build into other people and do things with excellence, and to try to glorify the Lord
Mhm.
with my giftings, I'm looking backwards at things that I've done in the past, and I'm stuck in the past instead of moving forward.
Mhm. No, and I can think, I mean, have you ever had a situation where you've gone like all in on something and didn't get it?
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
I have. I think about a time where it was probably almost 20 years ago, and I thought that I was in line for this big promotion
Mm.
at work, and I went all in. Like, I sacrificed all my time,
Mm.
all my emotional energy, working tireless nights, and I didn't get it. And I really feel that, like, the bottom fell out because I was really focused on kind of external validation and external worth versus really looking at, okay, what's my true motivation? I don't know. Has that ever, I mean, you've had so many situations like
Yeah.
professional athlete and others. Has any, what has happened with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it just even goes back to, I mean, the biggest moment we talked about before is just when I lost everything in real estate. But I was looking towards to where I didn't have to worry about money ever again, and I was building up all these real estate things, and then at the drop of a hat, something that
Mhm.
I had nothing to do with, the banks, and we've talked about this, the banks, and giving out loans to people that didn't qualify, and it all fell apart. But I was the Joe Schmo that was stuck holding the bag. I didn't get
Mhm.
bailed out. Banks did, other people did, but at the same time, I was going all in to try to, provide for my family and build this future. And then it was just gone. And that was when I realized that, and all that really matters is relationships. It's, my faith, it's my relationship, with my wife, my kids, and how do I, um, in every day and every moment of life, where my feet are, how am I present to just really care about and love the person in front of me to try to make them better? And it's like, if I can do that, then my life was successful, because I
Mhm.
was building into something that couldn't be taken away. I mean, I would leave making someone better, and then how they did with it, whatever, but they at least knew somebody cared about them.
Mhm.
And some days it was people were going through amazingly hard times, and some days it was just, they're fine and just caught up. But at the same time, it's leaving that impact of letting people say, like, hey, you matter.
Mhm.
And too often we put our stock in things that don't matter. And I mean, I would say, I mean, are you even a better person now because you didn't get that? Because you may have gotten that, and then it's like some people, when they get their gold medals, it forces them to have to strive more. Well, I got that promotion, but then now I need to get another one, and I need to get another one, and then it's like, at what cost, right? And
Mhm.
and same as, like, with these gold medals, there's a lot of danger when you get that. Like, there's danger of, okay, great. And you look around, this is amazing. But you wake up the next morning, you're like, I got to start training again because I have to do this again, in 4 years, or if it's college football or whatever it is, I have to keep proving myself. If that's where your self-worth and contentment comes
Mhm.
from, it can be really destructive.
Mhm. Yeah, Shaun White talks about that a
Hmm.
lot, where he was the best snowboarder on the planet. He would get all the gold medals, and then it was that fear of, okay, now I have to repeat that. And it's that
Hmm.
it really gets down to what goals do you have that are like what is really driving you? And once you get to the plateau, it's hard to stay there. I mean, there's a lot of pressure to stay there that can create a lot of dangerous, destructive behaviors in yourself and kind of how you view things and your mental health. And I think we've just seen that time and time again. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is too is, I mean, like you talk about, Shaun White, and when he started getting older and was still winning, but there were these young people coming up that were new into the sport, but they were not only challenging him for that top spot, but also they were taking it to another level to where they're doing tricks that people had never done before. And so when you look at whether it's in the Olympics or whether it's at work, can you look at the fact that I'm trying to do something to not just put the spotlight on me to say I'm better than all of you, but I'm actually trying to do my best and in turn trying to drive and help the sport grow and get better. I mean, look at the 5 minute mile, right? I mean, there were people that were like, oh, you could never break 5 minutes in the mile. Now people are doing that like crazy and they just keep pushing, pushing, pushing and reaching new heights. And so instead of saying, what if you're the person that was the first one to ever break the 5 minute mile?
Mhm.
And you thought you were the greatest and you had all this, awards and acclaim. And then next thing you know, all the other people start, then does your ego start shrinking
Mhm.
to where you're like, I'm not worth anything anymore? Or were you part of a pioneer or somebody to drive and help other people's, just like, Jared with the letter, with iron sharpens iron iron sharpens iron that you put out. I mean, when you look at someone, whether it's a colleague in the workplace or a competitor in sport or whatever it is, are
Mhm.
you looking at them as somebody that is helping to sharpen you and to become your best? Or are you looking at them as competition that if you don't beat them, you are not worthy then? Or
Mhm.
and then where's your self-worth? Where's your contentment? It's gone.
Mhm. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think that you guys have kind of identified maybe three different portions that or three different portions of a career that someone might have, whether it's an athlete or a corporate person, or even someone who's just pursuing some kind of goal or ambition that they have in life. And I see those three as being kind of this idea of the climb or kind of the ascent that someone has, where they see some lofty goal and ambition, and they're really going after that thing. There's then the person who's arrived, they've actually gotten what they've sought after and what they've pursued. And then there's also the person who didn't get, like your example, Andrew, the thing that they were pursuing and sacrificing for and giving a lot of time to. Um, I would love to just dig into these and kind of look at some of the things that each of these promise. And I think that maybe we can just start with this idea of, maybe the young athlete in the case of the Olympics who's just breaking onto the scene. They want a gold medal more than anything in the world. Um, what are maybe some of the things that are driving them and motivating them to pursue this? And where are maybe some areas where they're going to run into disappointment?
I mean, I think one of them is just, it's kind of like, well, once I get there, then I've arrived and I'm good. And what can happen is sometimes even with that is then all of a sudden you have this error that you think you're better than everybody else. And sometimes that can lead to even stagnation to where you're like, oh, I'm better, I'm good. And you start to actually, slowly that slow fade backwards because you just get lazy and you think you're better. But I think, the biggest thing is really when you look at those people that get on top, there's a lot of anxiety. How do I stay there? And again, it just gnaws away little by little. Was it a fluke? Like,
Mhm.
that is, you know, and they sometimes win at all costs. Like they all of a sudden start having to find ways to cheat. And, you look at Olympic swimming, people take extra kicks underwater. I mean, you look at what happened obviously with curling, this year in the Olympics. I mean, people do things just to make sure they win. And it's like, but then you don't realize even, Jared, again, your post the other day is trust is built in drops and lost in buckets. And man, when you do that one thing, like use your finger to help kind of, move the stone down so just so you can win, all of a sudden your integrity is shattered. In that one moment, just because you're like, I have to win or else I'm not whatever good enough, or,
Mhm.
and so that person is totally shattered their integrity.
Mhm. Well, and I think we all have insecurities, and I think about what are the things that we, and I'm speaking of myself and, other people, but, I look at like, what are those things that we do to validate that we're okay. So I look at somebody that's on that journey And you look for all those external markers, those external validations to kind of prove yourself. I think about in a corporate setting, I think about vacations and taking a vacation, and how many times I've been completely burned out. And I've thought, okay, this vacation is going to be everything. I can't wait to go on this vacation. And I remember this time that my wife and I, it was the only time we went to Hawaii, and it was great. You know, it was be there for 6 nights. We lived out in California, so it wasn't too far to get over there. And I came back, and the Monday morning I was having coffee with somebody, and they asked me what I had done over the weekend, and I couldn't remember anything. And I had completely forgotten about the trip. And that's how much it's one of those things where, you know, I think that we can look externally to different things to try to, you know, try and think of the word, but it's to, you know, feel validated. And but it comes down to, what is our standard? You know, what are we really measuring our success against? And if it's against, you know, if it's against a record, well, every record is going to get broken eventually. There's going to be somebody younger, somebody faster, somebody smarter, somebody that cheats. All records and achievements are going to be broken. So if that's where we're putting our stock and weight, then we're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think also too, it's, you know, then, you know, sometimes some people are like, well, if I just work harder, if I just grind harder. And I remember my oldest son, you know, he would talk about work ethic and all these things. And he's like, well, Dad, he's like, I can train. Like, he would talk about Nani and how much he trained and all these, you know, hours, like 6-8 hours. And he's like, I can train harder. And I'm like, man, but you're going to blow yourself up. Like, you have to recover. You have to have some time to really, I mean, and I think what's great is now, we're seeing so much more the importance of sleep, the importance of rest, and because we have, especially the U.S., you know, we've been this like driver, do more, and I mean, we have, you know, our emails and the cell phones that are, you know, work can find us all the time, and can you turn on the do not disturb and actually be at peace and at home with your family and say, you know, hey, this is you know, sacred private time that I do not want to give up just to achieve more, because some of us have seen that achieving more doesn't give you the peace that you thought it did. You know, the great theologian Jim Carrey, you know, he said, I wish everybody could you know, be millionaires so that they would see it's not what it's all cracked up to be. I mean, there's, I was listening to Tim Keller, and he was talking about this writer many years ago in New York that was talking about these people that became celebrities. And, you know, they were so excited to get there. And when they looked around, they finally arrived. And then they were like, not only is this not what they thought it was, but they became like these monsters. Like, they became so self-absorbed, and they didn't have the peace. They actually, you know, felt almost more insecure than they ever did, but yet they had achieved, and they'd become these famous people. And then again, suicide, you know, marital, you know, dysfunction with your child, and again, it's believing this lie that the world says that when you gain more and you get this status and everything else, well, then it's all going to be fine. And it's like, well, there are a lot of people, they have a whole ton of money now, but then now they're actually more stressed about losing the money than they ever were about trying to earn money in the first place. And so it's just like this, it's this double whammy. It's paradoxical to where you're like, wait, I have more but I'm actually more miserable than, I mean, Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
Said, you know, the person that said that, you know, whatever, that money can't buy happiness. And he had this, you know, sad face. And then I saw somebody, you know, had a bit from King Solomon, and same thing, you know, it was like, what, 700 or 800 BC. And he was saying the exact same thing. It's like, look, money and all this stuff, having everything, does not lead to happiness. But what there is that inner sense of there's something more. What more is it? And is it something can be found in this life or not?
I remember seeing this interview with this, well, it was like a Q&A with this guy, Mike Donahue, or Donahue. He's the lead singer of a band called 10th Avenue North. And in the Q&A, somebody asked him, when did you realize that your calling was to be a singer? Like, when did you learn that? And he said, it's not. He's like, that's definitely not my calling. He's like, that's what I do. He's like, if I face the fact that my calling is to be a singer, then what happens when
Mm-hmm.
when I get laryngitis, or if I get a brain condition and I can't write music anymore? If I, am I then kind of doomed to be a failure? And he was like, no, it's really a posture of my heart and how I approach every single day, and how I can, be joyful and serve others. And yes, I have a gift in singing and I'm able to take advantage of that, but there may be a day when I'm not going to be able to sing. And so that, like, what I do for a profession is not my identity. And that's really resonated with me in a lot of ways, just because I think it's easy if you're an athlete, or if you're a corporate executive, or if, fill in the blank, whatever your profession is, it's easy to kind of put your identity in that. And, unless you get the gold medal in your respective area, you can feel like a failure.
Yeah, I think that there's danger when you get to the top of the mountain, in that you can fall off. But there's also danger at the bottom of the mountain, in the sense that you never get to the top and you think that you've missed everything that matters in life. Um, and I think that what you've hit on, Andrew, is this idea of seeing beyond just now, and being able to have an identity that's not influenced by your circumstances. Um, and I think that when I think of the Olympics, in one sense, I feel bad for a lot of the athletes. And I feel bad for them because I ask myself, what is driving them to these lengths? I'm sure that for some of them out there, it's just pure motivation. They want to be the best that they can be. They want to see how good they can get. They have a phenomenal work ethic. They're disciplined. A lot of great things, I'm sure. But I would bet if you really, really dug in with a lot of them, there's something that they're probably running from. There's something that they think is going to fulfill them, but really won't. Or they're scared of the reality of not being competent at whatever sport it is that they do. Like, I don't know Lindsey Vonn personally. Like, I have no clue what's going on in her heart, in her mind, in her life, in her past. I only see the surface of her success, right? For me, I look at the thing that happened with her. For people who don't know, she's a skier. She tore her ACL a week before the Olympics. For 99.9% of people, they're like, all right, I'm having surgery. I'm not competing. She's also 40, by the way. So a 40-year-old tears her ACL. Obviously, she's in elite physical condition. Her mental training is probably phenomenal as well. But she decides that she's going to race. And, in one sense, I go, okay, it's probably your last Olympics ever. You probably know that. You want to see, can I at least just like shut the door on my own terms? Fair enough. But I couldn't help but just feel devastated for her, to see her completely like shatter her leg. I mean, her leg broke in like 6 different ways. Like, it's insane. Um, but I couldn't help but feel bad for her, just because I felt, is that really worth it? Like, when you're 60 years old, are you going to be able to walk? Like, if God gives you 20 more years of life, like, are you going to be able to, play with grandkids or with your siblings' kids? Or is that all worth it at the end of the day? And I think that it's a question that a lot of people don't really consider. You brought it up early, Andrew, is at what cost? And I think that for a lot of people, they don't realize the price they're paying until it's too late, and they go, I can't pay anymore. Now I'm really out over my skis. Um, and I think that there's one way that you can avoid both the dangers that come at the top of the mountain and the ones that are at the bottom, in terms of failure. Um, in Lindsey Vonn's case, like, she's experienced both. She's been the best skier in the world. She knows probably what it's like to start falling from that peak down and down and down and down and down. And then to hit rock bottom of not only total failure, do not finish the race, but my body is in smithereens. Um, and even if the circumstances are that, whether it's for an athlete, whether it's for a relationship, whether it's for a goal, whether it's for, corporate career, whatever it might be, I think that there's one key to avoid those things, and that's really the you, not me mindset. So I want to just turn it over to you guys and talk about how You Not Me solves both the danger of falling from the top and the danger of not ever getting to the top in the first place.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up because I remember when I heard that Lindsey Vonn tore ACL, and then you think about the torque that's put on her knees. Like, it's not like she's just going straight down a hill and not turning. I mean, she's from side to side with the slalom and everything and putting so much torque. And I mean, I don't care how much with my oldest son going through 2 ACLs, I know a couple people that have gone through, multiple. I know one that didn't even have it fixed, and he can run in a straight line great, but side to side, not not at all. And I just remember thinking, like, in the world that we've gotten to, like, it's this bravado, like how great and also this fantasy world where people do these miraculous things. Like, you watch some of these movies and you're like, there's no chance that would ever happen in real life. It's just in a movie that they make this thing happen.
Unless you're
So,
Tom Cruise.
well, Tom Cruise, yeah, or the Rock, or
Yeah.
whoever. You're like, there's no way he's like holding like a helicopter and a truck and a chain. That would tear him in half. But he's doing it in the movie, right? But one of my, and again, this is not me, judging Lindsey Vonn for her choice at all, but there's a part of me even thinking from a You Not Me lens, like, hey, you are such a icon in this sport, and like what you've done, and like it's great that you're like going to try to push and everything, but there's also wisdom in like, how hard do I push, and is this even realistic? Because one of my thoughts, and I don't know if this is possible or not, but it's like, hey, can I, in humility and in love, step aside? And there's an alternate there. Could I have said, hey, you know what? Whoever the girl, young woman is that was, her alternate, I've had my time. And I know that I'm probably not going to even medal. So instead of me taking this spot, can I love you and encourage you and say, like, I have faith in you for our country, and I want to give you a chance to step out on the stage and show the world what you can do? How cool would that have been? Like, I think that would have been a better story than her going and, to your point, I mean, my God, I didn't know that she broke it in 6 places. I just knew she broke her leg. So again, it's like sometimes we do destruction to ourselves out of, I don't know if it was pride or ego or just trying to push the envelope more. But I mean, I think that would have been a really amazing story for her to step aside and let a youngster come and take her place.
Yeah. No, that is interesting. And, we don't know her, obviously, like her
No,
personal motivations and
no.
all of that. But I think it's, when I think about kind of operating in teams and think about when I think about a you, not me mindset, it really comes down to how do you view somebody else's success or failure? So it's in situations where, you think about kind of living through others. So if Lindsay had done what you had talked about, that seeing somebody else's success isn't her failure,
Mhm.
and that's not like and I think that's where, when I think about how to, what can our mindset be if you're in a corporate job, if you're an athlete on a team, what are those ways that you can kind of think about the broader team and think about, okay, how can you leverage the skills and talents and strengths? What is the best role for me right now? And how can I make the other people around me better?
I mean, I think even in just, whether it's sporting events or whatever, like, can you really appreciate when someone does something amazing and maybe it bests you? And
Mhm.
can you stand there and applaud and say, that's impressive, and
Mhm.
congratulate them? Or does your ego get absolutely smashed,
Mhm.
and then you just get angry and bitter and you're like, I have to find a way to beat them? And but again, like, all that does is it creates chaos in your heart and your mind. You don't have peace. You're back to, I have to prove myself again, versus, man, that's awesome. And congratulations to you. And
Mhm.
um, whether you can or can't ever do that trick, or whatever it is, or
Mhm.
maybe you lost that game, it's hard. It's so hard to lose. And, I've seen this with, whether it's youth sports winning, like, national championships in college or youth or whatever, or losing. And the difference, again, it's like both people wake up to the next morning, and how do they move forward?
Mhm.
The question is, does one thing make you prideful and arrogant, and you are like, think you're better than everybody else? And does that actually hurt you in the long run? Or if you lose, or can you, humility win and grow and learn from it and become better and use your platform to do great things? Or if you lose, does it just destroy you and you just spiral out of control and depression? Or do you look at it and say like, hey, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to even have gotten there. I wish I would have won, but what am I going to learn from that? And how am I going to move forward to not just make myself better, but the rest of my team better, other people, share my experiences, be broken bread and poured out wine to share with other people what you could have done differently or how to coach them to be better. I mean, Jared, your IQ in football is off the charts, and what you guys have done with Penn State, Harrisburg, and how you guys have, really loved on those, young women and what they've done and how they've gone further than they ever have, the Sweet 16. Um, and it's like you could have hung up the boots and said, you know what, I'm just done. If I can't play, I'm out. But instead, you're stepping out and you're making other people better and you're challenging them to be better than they ever thought they could, even maybe better than other coaches and teams thought that you guys could be. And again, that's the thing is like where our feet are, can we give our best to make sure other people know that, hey, we see greatness in them. We want to help them get there and they're loved. And whether they fail or whether they succeed, the love doesn't change. It's unconditional. I care about you anyway. And I think that's the problem, with kids today is they're loved and cheered when they, get great grades, when they get into a certain college, when they win certain sporting events, they, catch touchdowns. But if they don't, the love isn't quite the same. And then they start to see that, and that starts to get deep in their hearts, unfortunately.
Yeah, it really speaks to contentment. And how can we be content kind of along the journey? So it's like I think about like my last job. I worked at my last company for 21 years, and there are a lot of kind of highs and lows that go on in any in any week, any day, and any year. You get annual performance reviews. A lot of people just finish that up, and some people are really happy with their reviews. Some people feel like a failure afterwards. But the reality is there's not much difference. I mean, you're on your journey, and how can we all strive to be excellent, but be content where we are? And how do we, one, understand the skills that we have? How can we invest and make the people around us better, more effective, make them feel valued? Because that's where we're gonna, in my opinion, that's where I found true contentness in that.
Well, I mean, I think also too, you have performance anxiety with people that they have this huge weight to perform. And then what happens is, if you're, playing soccer, the ball is coming to you and you're like, I can't take a bad touch. I can't take a bad touch. And what do? You take a bad touch. Instead of just feeling free and playing and trusting and, and knowing that it's okay to fail, and giving yourself grace, but also as coaches and teammates to give them grace as well, because we know that we've all failed before. And when I make a mistake, I want people to forgive me, but why do I not extend the same forgiveness and grace to other people? So Jared, you were going to say something. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, how can people make sure that they're pursuing excellence in a way that's going to elevate others while still not compromising their standards? And then also, how can people live from a posture of being able to say that, okay, if I have X, then that's enough for me? Like, for example, for the person who has a family, if I have X amount of dollars per month, I know I can provide for my family. I can pay my bills. I can put food on the table. I can give a secure home environment. For the athlete or for the person who's striving for more of a non-necessities goal, how can they really get to a point where they can say, okay, I know that this is enough, and if I get more than that, great, but it's not going to completely change my life. So 2 questions for you guys there.
All right. Yeah, I think, the hardest thing is we forget that our best is enough. And that's all that, I mean, like with my boys, I've tried to love them along the way to help them know and understand that, look, I don't care what the result is. Like, do I want you to get straight A's? Do I want you to, succeed and, whatever? Of course, but what I care more about is your heart and when you do anything, and are you giving your best, and are you trusting in what the result is? I think when we, it's like a bar of soap. When we hold it in the shower like so tight, like it slides out. But when you hold it loosely, it doesn't slide at all. And so I think it's the same thing with life is when we hold so tight to this expectation, and then you add time to that expectation. Like I have to get here by a certain date. I remember when I was young, I was like, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30 or whatever. And it's just like, okay, that's putting a lot of weight on something that I now see that not only does not make you happy, but also it's a time constraint that's really out of my control. And then I lost everything. So I was really far from that $1,000,000. But the crazy thing is when we just say, I want to show up and do my best every day. And, for me, trusting the Lord's sovereign hand, that, I mean, even with this company, right? I mean, there are times I've wrestled with a lack of obedience of really trying to push and drive it. But I think the Lord also says, like, hey, let that rest in me. And where are you now? If you just keep looking backwards and say, like, I should have, I could have, or, I haven't made it yet by this time. And he's like, I don't care. I just want your heart. I just want you to step out, try to care and love for people, point people in a better direction than what the world's pointing them to, which is that money, fame, success, all these things, you're going to be happy. And then really what happens is they get there and they're totally miserable. They've wrecked relationships along the way. And the sad thing is, I see so many dads, especially, that don't have relationships with their kids. They don't have relationships with their spouse because they've made earning, status, climbing the corporate ladder their number one priority. Instead of, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with trying to earn money. There's nothing wrong with trying to climb up the ladder. If you're trying to climb the ladder, do you do it by trying to knock people out of the way, stab people in the back, and then you're gone all the time from your family? Or are you constantly trying to love everybody that works with you to make them better? Therefore, they want you to get promoted because we want someone like that in the C-suite. But also you take time to love your spouse, love your kids so that they know they're unconditionally loved. And I mean, I saw it when I started living out You Not Me with my wife. My marriage was a good marriage, but man, it became amazing because I loved my wife how she should have been loved in the first place. I wasn't loving her as well as I could. And and so, that's the thing. When people feel unconditionally loved, valued, and cared for, it changes everything. But also, it just gives them this empowerment to do things that they probably would have never done because they didn't have anybody in their corner that was actually caring deeply and like had their hand on their back and said, "I'll help you and support you however I can."
And I think about the journey that you just talked about. It's really lonely. It's really lonely when you have a lot of individual self-focused goals. It's like, hey, I have to make a certain amount or I have to accomplish, whatever the goals are in front. And I just think about how important it is to be in community. And I think about like somebody that is on the journey, Jared, that you talked about, it's like you have somebody who's trying to be a good husband or wife. They're trying to be a good parent. They're trying to be a great employee. They're trying to excel in all of these things. Well, who are the people that are helping you to stay grounded? What does your community look like? I'm a guy, and I have an incredible wife. It's really important that I'm in fellowship with other guys, and that we can hold each other accountable to what are those things that are really important in life. Like we are called to be excellent at what we do, and the last thing I want to do is do poorly in any job. But I also want to make sure that how do I keep my eye on the really important balls that they don't drop. And that's where I think being in community and having people that can speak life into you. And I just know how important that has been in my own walk, in my own journey. And those times where I felt completely burned out and felt like a failure and all of those types of emotions, it's when I was probably most isolated. And when I wasn't in community with, with other people. And once I did that, then they can, shine really, I guess it's the mirror effect. They can really kind of hold the mirror up and kind of help me. I've had some really good friends. One that I've talked about in a previous podcast that was just, his feedback and his investment in me has kind of made the difference in my life and kind of who I am today.
Yeah, I actually went to lunch with a friend and someone that he works with, and um, So I was hanging out with my friend Daniel and this guy named Darren that he works with, and it was cool because Darren and I had connected like almost probably not even a year ago or so, but we've been trying to catch up because he, subscribed to the You Not Me letter and really enjoyed it, and he's been, sending out, and he's just been such an encouragement. And so I just want to get together with him to get to know him and just say hello. And it was so great talking to him, and he's such a great leader in the fact that he supports my friend Daniel so well, but also when we talk about leadership and it's like, it's not rocket science, man. It's like, just be a good person, like care about people, have integrity, have a work ethic. Things will take care of themselves. Like it's really not that hard, but so many people they just struggle with, but if I don't focus on myself and what I can get, then how am I gonna get anything?
Mhm.
And it's like, it's so paradoxical in the fact that you focus on other people, you end up getting way more than you ever even thought about. And this isn't a prosperity thing. This is just people wanna help people that care about them. Like, they wanna
Mhm.
see them succeed. And even my friend was telling me about, someone was talking about trying to get people to work harder and do all this, and it's like, and it was more about putting pressure on people versus actually caring about people. And he's like, so I need to act like I care so that they'll work harder. And it's like, no, you got it wrong. If you're doing it just so they work harder, you're not doing it with a pure heart.
Mhm.
And but if you actually genuinely, sincerely, like Oswald Chambers says, when the appearance and reality are exactly the same, when you sincerely care about people, man, they want to work hard for you. They want to just turn themselves inside out for you. And it's, again, it's just, that's what a good relationship is it's a two-way street where both people care about each other and they are willing to sacrifice just to
Mhm.
care and love each other. I mean, it's what a great marriage is.
Yeah. No, and I think about like what drives and motivates people. Sometimes you look at it's all about, keeping up with the Joneses and I want to get the nice house in the nice neighborhood. I want to drive the nice car. Basically working to impress people that you have no relationship with and really aren't invested in you, versus really setting realistic goals, with your spouse and with your family and living within your means. I mean, I think that that's something else, Jared. I think about like people that I'm just going back to something that I think you had shared. It's when you think about kind of working and there is a lot of times where people feel a lot of pressure to go all in on work. Hey, I have to ignore all these other things because I got to bring home the paycheck. I have to pay for I'm the provider for our family. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to, okay, are you living within your means? And because if you're not, then that creates an unnatural pressure that really can push and further drive a wedge into personal relationships and things like that, because you are having to lean into a profession or sacrifice more of your time and energy to potentially support a lifestyle that you're not really in a position to support.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, as a husband and a dad, I think there are a lot of times that there are people that, if they really understand just the blessings that they've been given as far as family and people around them, like, I'll turn myself inside out for my wife and my kids, like, to make sure
Mm.
I provide and care. Like, when we lost everything, I was like, I don't care. I'll go flip burgers I'll go work. You tell me where, I'll go do it because
Mhm.
I want to provide and care for my family. And
Mhm.
when we have that heart and mindset that we're willing to sacrifice for other people, it's so much, you can endure and push so much harder than if you're just sacrificing for yourself sometimes.
Mhm.
Because, when you're by yourself and you're trying to train, if it's just for yourself and your own ego, gets to be one of those things where you're like, sometimes you're just like, whatever. I'm just gonna mail it in. Nobody's watching. But if you know that somebody's depending on you, you won't mail it in, and
Mhm.
and you will do and turn yourself out, or inside out. And I think that's uh, it's amazing. I mean, even with the post that we just did the other day, or today actually, with the Clemson baseball team, where in the fourth inning they go up and they shake all the hands of the veterans' hands, and the military veterans in the stadium. It's like, when we honor people that have sacrificed, like, what a blessing it is to be able just to tell them thank you for for what they've done. And so I think it's so important. We talked about mentors the last podcast and telling them thank you, but also in the midst of competing and trying to drive and become your best, can you be thankful to the coaches that are walking alongside you, to the teammates that are with you, that show up and encourage you and push you every day?
Mhm.
Or is it just this self-focused ambition that it's just about you getting stats and you getting a starting spot? You could care less what happens to anybody else.
Mhm. Well said.
Well, guys, thanks so much again for the conversation today, for all of your personal stories and reflections. For the listeners, just to give a closing thought, medals will fade, records will fall, roles will change, but character will remain, relationships will endure, and influence will last. Excellence preferred, excellence pursued for ego will feel exhausting, but excellence pursued for others will feel sustainable in the end. The real win isn't standing alone at the top of the mountain. It's who you become and take with you on the climb. This has been the You Not Me podcast. Thanks for listening.